Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our latest episode of Toaster Talk as we sort of do a summer break review along with the recent most dramatic race that we had in Hungary. It had all the elements of a race that was not dry except for the weather. So, a lot of drama there, but we'll have our panelists, both Satya and Naren, on. Welcome, both of you. Uh, a lot of festivities around in India with the Varalakshmi Puja and Raksha Bandhan. So, happy festivities to all our viewers out there. Uh, our backgrounds are sort of colorful from that perspective, but they have a Hungary feel to it. With that, Naren and Satya, each one of you top highlights of the Hungary race that you want to start off with, and we can start off with Naren.
Okay, thanks, Vivek, and to all our viewers, wishing you a very happy Raksha Bandhan. In my opinion, it was I was predicting that Leclerc would win, and during the middle of the race, he was actually complaining to his race engineer that this is not what he wanted the race to be, and we can discuss it after the race. But I was looking at certain podcasts after the race, and the mistake that they perhaps did was something related to ride height, based on the tire pressure, which completely hampered his race, and he had to then scamper back from the first position to the last. So that is perhaps something that I really didn't like from Ferrari. That's usual.
And
But
just to give context to our viewers there, uh, in the qualifying, Leclerc did have a great Q1 and okayish Q2. We'll talk a bit about Hamilton later, but he didn't have a great outing at all. But in Q3, even to Leclerc's surprise and Ferrari's surprise, he got the pole position, and that's what Naren's kind of highlighting that he started off at pole, but with the configuration change. And by the way, I heard something different. Well, while he thought it was a configuration change, there's actually an underlying problem that they had, which is what forced him to come in fourth. And he wasn't aware of that, and he thought it was actually the configuration that screwed his race.
yeah, everybody, meaning we really do not know the exact scenario, because even in the radio, his message was a little cryptic. He didn't exactly tell it out loud what the problem was. Of course, behind the scenes, there would have been a lot that was happening.
I mean, they've run
But
out of alphabets for strategy, right?
Yeah, of course, yes. But I was really impressed by the fact that there were a few people who were rookies who did pass well beyond the champions. For example, I was surprised to see that Stroll, Alonso were there somewhere in fifth and sixth.
Alonso got
Gabriel
fifth.
Bortoleto, yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto was ahead of Verstappen in the qualifying, and so these were something that I really liked. Overall, of course, looking at the race, it was probably a normal race, except for the fact that we had some technical difficulties with strategies and probably Ferrari doing a bit on their own. So the I would say that at the end of the race, the championship battle has truly begun, and we have to wait and see what happens for the second half of the season.
Yeah, let's get in Satya over here and hear his perspective from the Hungary Grand Prix.
So I saw to an extent, but then I couldn't completely. But the parts that I saw were sad enough for me. Being a Lewis Hamilton fan, his entire move to Ferrari was something that we celebrated, but at the same time was skeptical about. Now the problem is the skepticism is overtaken the celebration quite a bit. True. I mean, when Ferrari, there, if I just talk about Ferrari itself, there's a very distinct performance between the two cars, wherein Leclerc, he has already gotten a few podiums. He is to an average finishing in the top fives, while Lewis seemed to be struggling with the car. There are many a times wherein he is towards the bottom five. I'm not bottom five. I mean towards the 5 to 10. He seems to be ending up there, and to see that his he finished off within Q2 itself in the qualifier was pretty sad. But that apart, it was great to see the way Norris also flipped the strategy around because there was everyone was going for a two-stopper, right? And then he tries to flip the entire script all over which I mean I know this will come to a later on discussion, but then while the McLarens on a whole are a great performance altogether, there is something fundamentally wrong with their team right now because they they are letting their two drivers race. That is what they're doing, and both of them are finishing at the top one two, which is why they are no one seems to be complaining about something. But we have seen this multiple times in the other teams when it was
2016,
Hamilton and
Nico Hamilton.
yeah, Nico and Hamilton when it was with older back then in the Ferrari when it was the Professor and the speedsters Senna and Alan Prost. You have two great drivers, and if you do not set boundaries properly, things are going to go bad eventually between them. And one thing that if you have noticed was there is a rule or they have set up a thing that don't hinder the driver in the initial this is something that was repeatedly mentioned during the start of the race, and this has caused Norris multiple times to fall back. Even in this race, if you see in the first one or two laps, Norris
He
did
lost
not
out.
take that risk against Piastri because of which I think Russell was able to overtake him for quite a period and quite a period of time in the initial phases. So I feel race wasn't much. It was just like you said, the few mistakes with Ferrari at the top. Apart from that, race was like another regular moving sort of
I mean, the
race.
last few laps would still be between Norris and PS3, right? Norris obviously having lost out at the starting, as Satya mentioned, as he tried to stay safe from PS3. Uh, but then, while everyone was planning on a two-stop strategy, Norris decided to shake things up and said he had nothing to lose. He went with a one-stop strategy, which allowed him to obviously undercut PS3. And then towards the end, there was a tight competition. Like you said, since McLaren had has no rules in terms of you guys can fairly race as long as you don't smash both yourselves out of the race. I think there was some excitement from that perspective. And that also brings me into a point as we get to the halfway point. McLaren can afford to tell both their drivers to go crazy and race because this was, by the way, the fourth consecutive 1-2 finish that they had. They are way ahead on the Constructors' Championship. The team that's placed second is Ferrari. I still don't know how. Without any podium finish, like minimal podium finishes, and Lewis Hamilton having his struggles, but it's just that how all the other teams are struggling even more, that Ferrari is consistently able to get to that second place. So, getting back to the main point, McLaren is obviously comfortable unless something dramatically happens in the second half of the season. But my question for both of you is the Drivers' Championship seems to be very open at the moment. And who would your predictions be for the winner of this year's Drivers' Championship? And it doesn't sound like it will be Verstappen.
Okay, if I can quickly jump in, if you see that with today's race win, the championship uh, gap between Norris and Piastri is roughly is exactly at 9 points. So if they continue to do the same battle without damaging the car, and if they fight for wins, of course, the rest half of the year is probably filled with a mix of a lot of street circuits and fast circuits. So if Norris, he even today, if you see, meaning in the Hungarian Grand Prix, Norris went with the one-stop strategy, but at the end of his race, the gap between him and Norris was only zero point 0.7. So he was probably very close to winning the race. So the battle was still on, I would say. But if they play tactically, and at one point, either Zach Brown should say, "Hey, let's stop that and let's see who goes for the win. Or he still allows them to race for the entire year to see who wins. I would put my bet on Oscar, because for both, from the look of the both drivers, I see Oscar to be a kind of a calm-headed guy, even though he makes lesser mistakes than Norris. For example, even in the Hungarian Grand Prix, there was a bit of snap and oversteer from Norris, which he deliberately tried to avoid. But of course, PS3 didn't have so much of snap and oversteer, and he was calm. So maybe if PS3 continues to perform in the way he does in the first half of the season, and he probably elbows out and defends completely against Norris for the rest half of the season, he will definitely win.
Satya, what are your thoughts?
I also believe that Oscar is definitely the better contender to win compared to Norris. It looks like I mean, we have seen Norris quite a few times. He had chances multiple in the past few seasons. And one true crucial thing or the key aspect that Oscar seems to have over Norris is the simple fact that when when put to the metal, Oscar seems to go the extra mile compared to Norris. So seems to have that killer edge as compared to Norris, who see you don't have to be you don't always have to be a ruthless guy to win. Of course not. But the fact is, when it comes between Oscar and Norris, Oscar at times tends to be a more selfish player compared to Norris. Not in a bad sense. It's not selfish in a bad sense, but when it comes when put to the test, Oscar would definitely choose himself over the team, while Norris does not. Norris would. We have seen that in last year Hungary, if you guys remember. Norris eventually. Oh my God, that was such a that. But Norris at the end, he could have won, but he still chose to go with the team rather
Yeah.
than Oscar. While I believe in a similar situation, Oscar might not have. So I feel Oscar is definitely the one who has a better chance of winning the world championship as compared to Norris. And the topic of Ferrari, how is it skinned? It is not because Ferrari is good, it is only because Red Bull is bad. In the whole, if you see the whole of it, the reason Ferrari is in second is because Red Bull's second driver is performing worse than Lewis Hamilton. He's no, both of Red Bull's second drivers were nowhere near where Verstappen is ending up, because of which the almost majority of the points for Red Bull is just Verstappen's points. There is no additional points for them to add, because of which Ferrari is second and not Red Bull.
But I mean, the one question I did have for you, and especially since you're a Hamilton fan, the the comment he made in Hungary where he said that he's useless as a driver and the car's nothing wrong with the car because clearly the car's at pole position. What do you make of that particular emotion from a seven-time world champion?
So it was heartbreaking to hear that particular comment come from him. I feel he is quite frustrated with the team and the car, because if you notice in when it was when it was Mercedes, the partnership that he and Bono had was something special, right? And there was a certain level of trust between the two of them, because while the driver is in the car, his only connect with the entire team, their plans, everything is the race engineer. And he and Bono had a great connect and a level of trust in that. But when you notice with Ferrari, and this has happened it has happened over multiple races,
Mhm.
wherein there seems to be a disconnect between him and the race engineer. There are a lot of times where he he has an idea which is either shot down, or there is something wherein the team uh, conveys an task away to him that he doesn't completely like. For example, I remember, I'm not completely recollecting the race, but in one of the races where the race engineer says someone is behind you and he's like, yeah, do you want me to let him pass as well? So I overall there is a level of frustration that it's a new car. It takes time for someone to get used to an in a team to the new car and new setup. It takes time because he has a certain level of driving, a certain style of driving, and maybe the Ferrari car is not entirely matching over there. Secondly, I feel he is not getting the right amount of support, or maybe he is not able to gel as well with the team as such, which is another level of frustration overall. So this is just a boiling pot that is waiting to explode with regards to both these components coming in. It's pretty sad because he doesn't have that many years. He's
Yes.
not a rookie like Alonso.
Makes sense. Naren, any differing thoughts on that?
No, I would like to add actually to what Satya was saying. What Satya is saying is 100% correct because Hamilton, to add on to what Satya was saying, that Hamilton probably has been being hard on himself when it comes to this particular race alone because only in this race he commented that he was useless. That is a lot to actually put on him. But I think it's primarily because of the fact that he has put a lot of expectation on himself and on the team as well, which perhaps is something that you really cannot do at the start. But yeah, there are cases where people move to different teams, they perform instantly. Maybe it's not suited for me. Maybe he needs the time. So only in the 2026 regulation he might know. One thing which I would like to highlight again from what Satya is saying is that with respect to Mercedes, they were working as a team. But here, every department, I feel every department, the Ferraris are working in their own silos and they are not connecting each other really well. So overall, yeah, they probably will have their own teams working brilliantly, but when it comes together as a team, they do not, work in tandem as a gear, and that's how their performance are dwindling.
Which makes sense. And again, I think Hamilton's frustration might also stem from the fact that Hungary was one of the best shots for Ferrari. And the fact that their performance didn't line up with that has probably got him more frustrated that, hey, here's my best shot, and I still couldn't get into Q3 from that perspective. And overall, throughout the race, we could see he struggled. He tried different things. He got a different tire combination from everyone else, but none of that really played out. But as both of you have rightly said, like this is 2025. It is the last year of the current regulations. 2026 is going to see a new set of regulations. And if you have started watching F1 recently because you watched a movie or you saw Drive to Survive and have got into this, one thing we do know is every time there are regulation changes, we have seen a shake-up where one team kind of gets the formula right, they dominate, and soon the other teams start catching up. And that's where all the action and excitement comes in. We've seen it happen with the Mercedes dominance. We saw it with the Red Bull dominance, the Ferrari dominance. It's a pattern or a formula, I should say, that we have seen time and again. And 2026 is going to shake those things up. So for a lot of these drivers, while the current state might not be favorable for them, they're all also playing the long game in terms of knowing that things will shake up in 2026, and a lot of focus for the teams is getting the 2026 setup right. If they are nowhere close in the championship this year, and if they are in the championship, doing well in the championship this year, they don't really want to change or shake things up. With that, before we close out for the break from an F1 perspective, till we come back to the second half of the season, any last thoughts on what you're looking forward to for the rest of the season? Naren or Satya, whoever wants to start off.
I can start. One interesting fact about Hungarian Grand Prix is the most number of wins is still secured by Lewis Hamilton. He has 8 wins to his pocket exactly in this Hungarian Grand Prix. So that might also be one of the reasons why he boiled up. That's something that I wanted to say previously. But go looking forward, I see that with respect to one particular team, which is Aston Martin. Aston Martin has been delivering some consistent results in the last few races. I think Adrian Newey's involvement is showing up, and they're doing pretty well. We will only know for the rest of the season if the drivers are able to capitalize on Adrian Newey's presence, and to see if they can probably improve their championship. Not championship, at least they can be able to stand to the top five. And the next, of course, is I will be leaving the top gunners, because we know for a fact that it is already secured. I'm also completely excited to see how Kick Sauber has been performing, because they were also performing really well in the last two races, with Silverstone, Hulkenberg coming podium in Silverstone, and Bottletter performing really well on ahead of Verstappen. So these are the two primary teams I will be looking forward to with their performances for the rest of the half of the season. And with the championship battles as close as it can get, it will be probably a much more exciting second half than we have ever seen in the last years.
No, that's a great summary and a roundup. Satya, from your perspective, what are you looking forward to?
So the top two are sort of finalized in the sense it could be Leclerc or Piastri, but we know it is definitely the McLarens. I think, like one thing that you mentioned in the very beginning, the Western era is definitely over. So, or at least for the moment, because the Red Bulls are nowhere where they are supposed to be. The Red Bulls are not performing that well at all. So, the second half might be a resurgence from their side, because they are trying. There's a lot of shakeup in the team, right? There has been a lot of shakeup in the team. So second half, there could either it could all go well, or things just go downhill from here, because there doesn't seem to be a proper leadership at the moment in Red Bull. So the Red Bull performance might overall just tank this coming in the second half, because they might not have any new updates or anything. Mercedes is actually performing well. So the one of the teams that I'm looking at is definitely Mercedes. Ferrari is a team I want to look at, but then I I don't know. I don't want to be upset. So I'm not. The second team is definitely Aston Martin, as Naren also mentioning, because with Adrian Newey going there, there is a lot of new changes, and the way that Alonso has been performing is also becoming better and better. So these are the two major teams that we are looking at. Williams, the initial when the overall season started, Williams there was a sort of anticipation from Williams' side, but that seemed to have sort of fizzled out, because Sainz is not performing to the level that we did expect him to do. Albon is still overcoming him or performing much better than him at lot more races. The other interesting thing is the way Yuki and Liam Lawson are performing. Because when Lawson was in Red Bull and Yuki was in he was in the what is the name of the
Racing
team
Bulls.
now? Red Bulls, yes. Keep forgetting they changed the name so many times. Like with when they at that moment Yuki was performing better, but now when Yuki they changed the teams, Lawson is performing.
Doing better.
So given the Red Bull history, maybe they might swap drivers again. You never know. So that's the thing that's interesting to look at.
Right. With that, thank you both of you for taking your time out for this discussion. We'll all be headed towards Netherlands towards the end of this month. It's going to be all orange there, whether it's going to be Verstappen's orange or the papaya orange for McLaren, we'll all find out. But with that, our viewers stay clued in. And keep posting your comments either on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you follow us. Like, share, and subscribe. And see you for an exciting second half of the season. Thank you.
Roar, the lights they fade. Hamilton's rides a scarlet shade. McLaren's fortress.